Good morning, or afternoon, or whatever time it is, I don't know. So Senator Amy Grady was elected to the West Virginia Senate in 2020, representing Senatorial District 4. She participated in several Senate committees, including serving as co-chair of Health and Human Resources. In the fall of 2022, she was appointed chair of Senate Education. In addition to serving in the Senate, she has been with a fourth grade classroom teacher at Leon Elementary in Mason County for the past 15 years. She began her career in education as a Title I interventionist. She and her husband Jack reside in Leon and enjoy being married for 19 years and counting. They have 3 children, Rhett, 15, Easton, 10, and Chesney, 6. I am blown away by her dedication to the education of our children. She is a warrior for them, from one warrior to another. Welcome, Senator Grady.
Thank you, Elise. I appreciate that introduction. I'm going to use this instead of standing at the podium. Okay, so I told Sally and Amelia that I do have some slides, but these slides were meant for only my eyes as I was studying. So if I don't follow along with them or it doesn't match what I'm saying, forgive me. I usually just like to speak from the heart. So I don't like to memorize things, okay? So I know Amelia mentioned that we talked about how the play on words of Nucor partnerships was a play on words with Nucor. I'm going to speak to you as a senator, but mostly I want to speak to you as a public school teacher. So I do teach fourth grade, and I think a lot of times we don't really think about the impact that the community and the businesses can have on students in schools. A lot of you that's sitting in this room have probably volunteered in your school to read on National Read to Me Day. I know I see some familiar faces that have been in Mason County to do that. I know you probably have stepped in and said, I want to write a check to the schools and let them use it for whatever they want. But many businesses can't always do that. So we want to talk about how small businesses and large businesses such as AEP and Nucor can help give those partnerships between schools and business. Okay. Jared, thank you. So some of the must-haves that I want to talk about when we have a partnership between schools and businesses is you want to have a clear focus on your return on investment, right? You are investing in the future of the community. You're investing in the future of the school. You're investing in those children and their future. You also want to make sure that we are transparent by setting goals. What are the goals? You're coming into the school for a reason, right? And the school is inviting you in for a reason. What are those goals that we want to set as business partners and as school leaders? We also want to make sure that we know the responsibilities, okay? Be present means show up regularly, not just once a year, not twice a year. Show up and be a presence in that school. The responsibilities are really important. The third thing, be intentional with your experiences that you provide students, right? And be intentional with the experiences that those students have. And the fourth thing is making sure that we have a lot of good, positive engagement. Engagement is so important because we want to keep kids interested in what we're doing, right? Okay. You guys can read my slides, so I'm not going to read them all to you anyway. So let's focus on the return on investment. A lot of our leaders in this room are community leaders who have a specific interest in the community for some reason. They have businesses, or you're an educational leader, or maybe you have a small business and you just want to invest in some way to make sure that our communities grow. The return on investment that you're going to look at is what am I going to give to those students in the classroom? What am I going to give to them so that when they come out, it benefits not only you personally or your business personally, but the community and the state as a whole? I gave some examples up here, some of the examples that I looked at from other states and how they had partnerships I really, really loved. We have a lot of great businesses coming into West Virginia, and those businesses can provide our kids with lots of opportunities and lots of experiences that are really important. So if you look at the slide, I can't really see it, but you have it behind me. There are some high schools in California, for instance, and they focus on what their industry is around them. Well, in California, they have a lot of the entertainment industry. So in their high schools, they have instilled academies that are arts academies to where they are providing specific experiences and specific programs that are detailed towards and put towards those kids graduating and going right into that industry. Because let's face it, we all know all of our kids are not going to go to college. College isn't made for everybody, right? So we want to prepare them for the workforce, but we also, more importantly, want to give them experiences that they have that they may not experience otherwise. They may not get these experiences outside of the school system because a lot of our kids come from areas where they're just not exposed to things. So anyway, you can read a lot of those up there. I'm not going to read all of those to you, but there are a lot of different programs that bring businesses into the school. One that I was really impressed with last fall was actually at Education Alliance Conference in Charleston, and it was the LINKS program that's in Frederick, Maryland. Are you guys, any of you familiar with that? Many of you? So businesses come into the high school and they give their time. They give their time. And I think that's the most important thing is that if you don't have the money to give your time. Invest your time in kids. Invest your time in the schools. That's the most important thing. That's what you're going to get as a return. Go ahead, Jared. Thank you. Okay. When we talk about transparency, I think we really need to make sure that it's not being transparent as in we want to make sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing or that I'm giving you my thoughts and you're giving me yours. What I mean by transparent, what we mean by transparent is that we want to make sure that you set a clear example of what is expected, right? So what's expected from the school system and what does the school system expect from you? And you want to make sure you're setting the same goals and you're on the same page because if we're not all on the same page, it's not going to work, right? We have to have clear expectations. In my classroom, in my fourth grade classroom, for instance, I have to give clear expectations. If I don't, they're all going to go every different direction, right? And we have to do that in general with anything that we do. So transparency is important. Go ahead, Jared, sorry. Experiences. So I want to talk a little bit about experiences that we want to talk about here with these kids in other states that have experiences with businesses coming in. The attendance rates skyrocket. Right now, we're seeing a problem with our students not wanting to come to school. And Amelia sent me an article the other day that I read, and it was Gen Zers were talking about how they don't feel like they are having fun at school. School's not engaging. It's not fun. It's not something that they really, really enjoy. Don't feel like they have a purpose. If we can give them experiences in school that are different, something that is thinking outside of the box, it can really encourage them to stay put. It can encourage them to come to school every day. That LINKS program I'm talking about in Frederick, Maryland, I think that principal, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember the exact numbers, but the principal said they were at like a 30% attendance rate, and once they started the LINKS program with the businesses coming into the school, it skyrocketed to about 88 to 90%, which is amazing, just because these kids were getting experiences that they didn't have, and they had somebody coming in investing their time in them. I teach at a very rural school. A lot of my kids don't have exposure to things. We are 12 miles outside of Point Pleasant. Point Pleasant is not a metropolis. We know this. We don't have very many in West Virginia, but Point Pleasant definitely is not a metropolis. And my fourth graders take a field trip to Point Pleasant every year. We go to the Battle of Point Pleasant, which is 250th anniversary this year. I encourage everybody to come down. And they take the trip, we take the trip, and many of them have never been 12 miles outside of our small rural community. We have a general store. It's actually used to be a bowling alley. And so if you've lived in Leon your whole life, you call it a bowling alley. And if you refer to it as a general store, we know you're a transplant and you're not from here. But that's where they go. They go to the bowling alley and they get all of their groceries. They get all of their things. You can get lots of things there, but that's the extent of their exposure to things. So having another adult come into the school to give them experiences and expose them to things they're not going to see outside can make a huge difference in their perception of themselves, in their perception of the world, and in their perception of their value to the world. And so I think that's the biggest thing I want you guys to take away today when I'm talking about these partnerships is we want our children to feel valued. And if I want my children in my classroom to feel valued, to learn, feel like a part of the learning community, a part of our classroom, I have to show them they're valued. I have to respect them. I have to show them they're valued. I have to show them they're worth my time. You guys can do that too. So as business leaders, as community leaders, coming in and forming relationships with kids can really promote a lot of different types of learning, but most importantly, can promote them to be motivated and encourage them to think outside of the box and to do something maybe the rest of their family hasn't done. Many of the students that I have in my classroom live in families where we're lucky if their parents graduated from high school. And sadly, there is such a thing as generational poverty. And I wish there wasn't, but there is. They kind of get used to one way of living, and they don't know any better. If they don't know that they can do better, they're going to be okay with that. And we don't want them to be okay with it. So having exposure to successful people will let them see, hey, I can do this too. I'm going to tell a story real quick. I'm going way off my chart here, but that's okay, Jared. Prior to me being in the Senate, I had little girls. We would have career day at school. Little girls would be dressed as teachers. They'd be dressed as nurses. Too many of them were dressed as YouTubers, which I tried to tell them that's not a job. That is a hobby, but that's another fight for another day. After I was elected, I had little girls coming in dressed as senators. They would wear a little sport coat. I'm sorry if I get teary-eyed because it just encourages me. But they would wear little sport coats. They would find little pins or badges to wear, and they would proudly come up to me at my classroom door and say, "Mrs. Grady, do you know what I am?" And, of course, I would play dumb. I'd be like, "I don't know. What are you?" And they say, "I'm a senator." And a couple of them even made campaign shirts, vote for so-and-so for Senate. And so I'm telling this story because had they not had a teacher that was a senator, they would never have that thought process that they could do it because they're just from a small town in West Virginia, Little Leon, right? They never have that thought that that's even a goal for them. They didn't even know what a senator did. Now they can tell you. Now they ask me questions when I leave. When I come back tomorrow, I'm going to face tons of questions about what I did today. And so just the exposure to different things that they don't see at home can make a huge difference. And I think a lot of adults forget that. Think back to when you were a child. And I know I'm talking a lot about 10-year-olds, but I'm even talking about 17-year-olds because we all know even teenagers still feel like they're small. They feel like they need somebody to really take them under their wing. They won't tell you that. They won't admit that, but we know it, right? So just think back to when you were a kid and who you had that you could look up to. And I'm assuming everybody in this room, because we're all successful, had somebody that comes to mind right away. You say, this is somebody that I looked up to. This is somebody that encouraged me. This is somebody that motivated me to do really well. Some of our kids don't have that. Some of our students go home and they do not have an encourager. They do not have a motivator. And they need an outside person to come in. Go ahead, Jared. I'm sorry. Let's talk a little bit about engagement. Engaging kids is so much fun, from small kids to larger kids, right? Doing hands-on, great. Doing a lot of different, they're not going to sit here like you guys are listening to me talk for very long, right? So you getting in there and being hands-on with them is the most important thing. So if you're a business owner and you don't have $1 million check to cut to the school system, lots of small businesses don't have that, right? Do you know what's worth a lot more than that $1 million check? Your time. Invest your time. Plan something that's engaging. Come in, just play a game with them. Come in, just expose them to what you do for a living. Show them what kind of career they can have, and you would be really, really shocked at how interested and engaged they are. Just because it's something different. We all get tired of the same old thing, don't we? Every day. I don't know that I could have a job where I do the same thing every day. I always say that. I know I couldn't have a job where I sat behind a desk all day long. My husband does that. So he's a day trader, and he sits behind 3 computer screens all day long, and he tells me all the time, come here and let me teach you how to do this. You're smart enough to do it. I know I'm smart enough to do it. The thing is, I couldn't sit there and do it all day. I have to be moving. I have to interact with people. I'm a social butterfly. So whenever you guys are looking at kids and you're looking at schools and you're thinking, I don't know. I don't know what I could offer. What can I offer? Knock on the door. Go ring the bell. Go talk to the principal. Go talk to the superintendent. Say, hey, look, I'd like to volunteer my time. What can you use me to do? We'll find them something to do, won't we, Mr. Hardesty? Yeah, yes, we will. Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the next one. Thank you. All right, so these are just some small ways to help, and you guys can read those. Notice the first one I put up there was those dollar signs. That's because in education we're always saying we don't have enough money, and it's the truth, but we're never going to have enough money, honestly. But that's the first thing that comes to everybody's mind in a partnership is money, 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 money. And what I want you to take away from what I'm saying to you today is while money is important, please just remember your time is more important. Volunteer that time. Whether your business sponsors the student of the month at a school every week, your name will get put in the newsletter, free advertisement for your company, right? Whether your business decides, you know what, we're going to go in and we're going to tutor every Monday. I'm going to send a couple people in to tutor every Monday or work with kids in math club or something like that. Guess what? Free advertisement. So you're going to get something back out of it, advertisement-wise, but what you get here's what's going to matter. Okay, so I've shared some stories about my experiences at a rural school, but I really think that a lot of us grew up with, I don't want to say a silver spoon. I surely didn't, and I doubt anybody in this room really did, but people like to use that word. You grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. But we were, probably a lot of us, most of us in here, had families that exposed us and that took us places, right? We went on vacations. We were involved in Little League. We were involved in Biddy League. We did a lot of things where we were around other people. Most of my students aren't. I know I talked about this a little bit, but I'm going to share a little story. I used to teach all the math in my elementary school, 3rd through 6th grade math. I was just the math teacher. And I had a 6th grade student once, and he came from a family who, we called it the compound. I mean, I'll be honest, there were about 4 trailers that were right there together. We didn't know which kid lived in which trailer or with who. Grandma pretty much took care of all of them. There were about 14 kids, and they were all at our school. We used to kind of tease and say, well, if they would move away, then our school would be shut down because it was so much of our population. But I remember I was doing we were doing a budgeting. I was doing a budgeting activity. I wanted them, they had to choose a job, and they had to figure out what the salary was. And then they had to budget each month, and they had to figure out, how we were going to take care of my family and what I could buy and what I couldn't. And I had one boy who just was disengaged. He was not interested. And I sat down with him, and he was from that family. And I said, hey, buddy, let's pick a job. Let's find something that you want to do. Maybe something that you're passionate about, something you love to work with your hands. What if you want to be a car mechanic? Because he loved cars. Nope, I don't want to do anything. I said, well, that's not much fun. You're just sitting around on the couch not doing anything all day. That's not exciting. And he said, well, my dad does that. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, my dad does that, and he gets a check in the mail every month. So that's what I'm going to do. And that was early in my career. And I thought, ooh, we have got to change this, right? Because we don't want that to happen. But sadly, many of my students, and I know other students around the state, experience that. That's what they see. We all want what's best for our kids. Sadly, some parents don't understand how to show that. Some parents don't understand that their kids can do better. And they feel like it's maybe a reflection of them if they go out and they do better than they did. And it's not, So it's our jobs. It's our jobs to go in and say, you know what? I'm going to show you that you can be better. I'm going to show you that you can be successful. There's a quote, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, but I remember vaguely what it is. Where it says, every student or every successful student is one successful person away. Okay, I got that wrong. Anyway, it's every student is one successful person away from being successful themselves. Is pretty much what it says. So if they form a relationship or a mentorship with somebody that's successful, comes into them and forms a relationship with them, that one relationship, whether it's a family member or it's somebody coming in from the outside, can promote and actually encourage and motivate them to be successful themselves and to give them the tools that they need. It is really important that we take it, even though they're not our kids, we take it to heart, and we take those kids and we say, you know what? I'm going to work on you today. In my mind, I'm going to work on you today. We're going to form a relationship, and I'm going to give you the tools you need to be successful. And every kid's different, just like we are. And so those tools may be different, whatever we look at, but take the time and try to do it. I think that's so important for our partnerships. Okay, Jared. All right, here's my call to action. I see you guys taking notes, and I love it. I hope I've given you something noteworthy. But mostly what I wanted to do was pull at your heartstrings. I think that's where we really, our action comes from, is when something pulls at our heartstrings. And so I know that works for me, right? And so what I'm asking every single person in here to do today, when you leave, whether you are a member of the school community or you're a member of the business community, reach out to your local businesses. If you are in the education industry, reach out to small businesses, to large businesses, and say, we're inviting you in. I want to invite you in. Come in. This is what we would like to partner and do. If you are a small business owner or an industry leader, do the same. Reach out to your local superintendent or your local small school. You would be really, really shocked at how many small schools do not have a business partner. Or they do, but that business partner, we've really got to do better. And if we want West Virginia to get up here with the rest of the states, we really have to start incorporating these skilled trades and the skills that we need for these community businesses and things like that in our high schools. And that's something from the legislative point of view that I would like to focus on this year, is making sure that our high schools are offering programs to where you guys have the workforce coming right out. We can train them while they're in school, and they're coming right out of high school, and they're ready to work. But as business leaders, please just think about that. Think about investing your time. Whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, we'll take you for 8 hours a day. Whatever you would like to do, it's really important. There's my call to action. Okay, I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'll be around.